everybody. Hiya. Greetings. And I hope you're doing well. Welcome to Adventures in History. My name is Shane. And we're going to talk some stuff tonight. It's going to have some fun. What's up, Nix? Hope you're doing well. Hope everything in your world is peachy. So check this out. I'll maybe save that till a little bit. So how is everybody? How's the world treating you today? Or lately? It's been a pretty good day. I either had not so good Chinese food yesterday or I had too much Chinese food yesterday. Either way, it has caused some disturbance in the force, if you get what I'm saying here. What's up, dude? I'm glad somebody gets the reference. Yeah. This always makes me happy when the pun titles come across and they land. Right? We're going to be talking about some barbarians today. We talked the last couple of weeks about Rome, and we haven't really focused very much on where these people came from or who they are, so that's what we're going to kind of do this week. But the show is Adventures in History, and what we do here is talk history in a way that is fun, laid back, easy to approach, not stuffy. And we talk about stuff that you don't usually get on, the bus tour, as I like to call it, which is sort of public education. Because history is so much more important than just just memorize this set of dates, right? You kind of miss the stuff. What's up, Sci-Fi? I hope you're feeling better. But it's good to see you. You actually named your barbarian that on Diablo. Very nice. Very nice. I have not played Diablo in a while. I played Diablo 3, but I haven't played the expansion. I know that the expansion for Diablo 3 was really big and did a whole bunch of stuff to kind of change the game. So I will eventually play that. That's on the list to play, but I haven't quite got there yet. But man, I love me some Diablo. I've played that since Stay a While and Listen, way back in the day. Managed to ingest about 800. Hey, that's moving in the right direction. I know that's a lot lower than normal, but a fake internet barbarian that streams. He's an actor. Huh. Is Techman, I'm not sure exactly what internet barbarian means. Like, is he a barbarian cosplayer that streams on the internet, or is he like a modern day barbarian and he's trying to resurrect some old way of life or something like that? I don't know what's going on there. Nix has been sick this past week too. Oh, that sucks. Oh yeah, the Rugrats. Yeah, they do that. COVID is still going around campus where I teach, and I have not gone a week since basically the beginning of the 2020-21 school year without somebody in my class catching COVID. So it's still very much going around. I know that everybody kind of forgot about the pandemic because there are other things happening, but it's still out there. Still not sure what happened to you. Prevailing theory seems to be a stomach bug. Oh yeah, those things are nasty. They're not fun. I've had my fair share of stomach bugs in the past. I don't know if I've actually told the story, but if somebody wants to adventure hat, I'll tell you the story of the intestinal infection. That one didn't go over so great. Oh, dude, you were in the hospital for 3 days. Holy crap. I knew you had to go in, but I didn't know you had to stay. Jeez Louise, that stinks. But glad to see that you're doing okay. We're going to talk some history. I'm actually kind of riffing here for just a little bit. I got a little bit behind because I was coming up with some new thing that I'm going to try out today on stream. a new fancy schmancy little OBS thingy that I put together, but I didn't really pay attention to what time it was. And while I was fiddling around in OBS, I forgot that I wanted to make tea for myself. So my tea is currently steeping right now, and I'm sort of just riffing. Hey, look, it's the funny guy talking on stream until I can go get my tea. I'll throw up the break screen here in just a second. He played in a fantasy series that was based in D&D group and then switched to tabletop gaming on stream. Crag, son of Horus. Cool. What? Oh, so he actually does stream the gaming. So I know that a lot of people really dig that, and like I know that what is it, like Critical Role is huge, and I know that even some stream friends like Damage does some streaming of tabletop games, and I know that Will Wheaton has an entire like YouTube series where he and his buddies play games. I find it very hard to get entertainment value out of that, and that's just a personal thing. It's just totally me, right? And if you love that stuff, go for it. But I have a hard time sort of latching in to what's going on when I'm not actually in the game, and that's probably just because I have my brain will just run away and do other things. But I don't know. Unless you want to talk about the area time, that was a big thing. Actually, my tea is probably done steeping right now. A real internet dad that streams mostly Nintendo and impersonates at times the Governator. That's great. There's either a documentary or a biopic about Arnold Schwarzenegger that's about to come out. Anyway, I'm going to throw up the break screen for just a second. I'm going to run and get my tea, and I'll be right back. 2 seconds. And we're back with tea. All right, now we can actually get down to business. So, here's what happened. Rome got in a bad spot. And around the middle 300s, things started kind of going downhill. And there are all these migrations, all these people moving around and moving in. And then in the 400s, things went way downhill. And if you've been around the stream for the last couple of streams, you'll know a little bit more about that. But suffice to say that the western half of Rome didn't come out of this very well. So, ooh, what is that? You, come here. This is what Rome looked like before all of the crazy stuff happened. We've got Western Roman Empire, we've got Eastern Roman Empire. Things are looking pretty nice. So this is probably about 350 or so of the modern era. Things are looking pretty well. Very happy. And then these people show up. Let me see if this...
I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus. I'm Spartacus.
Moose.
I'm Spartacus.
Thank you, my friend. Why didn't Spartacus save Western Rome? Well, first off, Spartacus died before there was an empire, and Rome killed him. So, I don't think he was particularly happy with the concept of Western Rome. So,
I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus. I'm Spartacus. I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus. Shiggy.
Spartacus.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you both so much for that. Why did Spartacus die? Well, it turns out that when you get nailed to a cross, the weight of your body actually starts very slowly suffocating you. And because your body is working so hard to try to pump blood into your extremities that are being pulled out of space, your body stops oxygenating itself very well, and your blood gets really, really thick. And you sort of really slowly die. And, you know, nobody was going to come get him off the cross. So he died because he was a rebel slave and had killed Romans and sort of humiliated some lower level nobility. Yay! But that's what happens. Let me see if this works. I tried this earlier. Let's see. Hey, look at there. I can now show photos on the main screen. How does that death rate on a scale of natural to genital torture device? It's pretty far up the painful scale. It's a very slow thing. Most people that got crucified took days to die. Like literal days. It's a pretty horrible way to go. So, if you can avoid it, don't get crucified. So, what we're going to do over the course of tonight is we are going to look at a lot of the emergent barbarian kingdoms. So we're going to look at the Visigoths, we're going to look at the Ostrogoths, we're going to look at the Franks, we're going to look at the Vandals, and we're going to look at the Burgundians. And these are going to be 5 of the biggest barbarian kingdoms. They are not the only barbarian kingdoms, but they're the only ones that really have what I would call staying power. They're the only ones that are going to have a substantial amount of longevity. How about that? Throws away crosses. I don't remember them testing this on Mythbusters. And we're going to look at the Goth girlfriends. I don't have any photos of Goth girlfriends, so I don't know if I was supposed to prep that or not, but if I did, that's on me, and I apologize. But no Goth girlfriends that I know of tonight, so. Okie dokie. Anyway, so let us start with the Visigoths. Let me get my notes open. All right, Visigoths. Now, one of the things that we kind of have to break these things down, Visigoth really means like Western Goth or Western Goth. Ostrogoth is Eastern Goth. So these are the Goths that end up in the western part of the Western Roman Empire. Visigoth, Thatagoth, the Visigoths, the Latagoths. And specifically, we're going to start with some of the stuff that they ended up doing at the very tail end of the Roman Empire, mostly under a couple of leaders that are going to be pretty powerful. So, the Goths in 394 get made into something called federati. And we've mentioned this term several times. And this means confederate, and it was a specific sort of bond between the Romans and the Goths. The Goths were the first big group that managed to get into the empire, and because of their number, they were almost impossible to push out of the empire. And what's going to end up happening is that they are going to get settled in the Roman Empire. And specifically, they're going to get settled in the Balkan Peninsula, right around here. And this is under Theodosius. So Theodosius the First. And they become federati. They are friendly with the Romans. And the idea here is, you fight for us, we let you stay here. But the relationship is not particularly happy all the time. And we mentioned some leaders of the Goths, and one in particular who is sort of what we might consider a very important Gothic chieftain. It's this guy named Alaric, and I know that people have a problem with pronouncing it Alaric, but that's the way that it would be pronounced if that was a Roman word. And that's the way that I've always heard it, so that's the way that I say it. But this guy is specifically going to sort of test this concept of being friendly, mostly because he is expecting payments from the Romans, and the Romans do not pay him, or the Goths. And this is going to lead him to invade Rome several times, including a particularly damaging invasion in 408, where he decides that the emperor at the time, Theodosius' son, a kid named Honorius, wasn't doing so great, so he was going to set up his own emperor. And Alaric appoints this guy emperor. And you're like, well, that's not the way that it works. The Goths don't get to just decide who's emperor. And they don't get to just go, this new person is in charge. But they were the biggest military force that was in the Western Empire at the time. And they did have a lot of swing. So when Alaric says Priscus is now emperor, there were some people that were like, okie dokie, we don't want to make the Goths mad, because if we do, they're going to kill us. So I guess Priscus is now emperor. And he was emperor enough that they clearly minted coins in his name. And that's a pretty good sign that you've got a little bit of power. But this is one of the first times where the barbarian groups actually decide stuff like who's in charge. Now, this is still considered an illegitimate emperor. I'm being visited by a puppy. We are puppy sitting. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Oh my goodness. We are sitting the puppy-in-law. So this is Pearl Puppy. Come here. It's okay. It's okay. This is Pearl. And she is a big baby. And she has to have constant attention. And she apparently does not like being in my lap. Okay, here we go. There we go. She's nosy as heck, but she doesn't want to actually be involved in anything. She just wants to know what's going on. Well, do you want to be... What do you want? You little furball. And of course, this is going to summon the larger puppy, who cannot handle the fact that there are two puppies in the house. She looks like she needs a seeing eye pupper. Yeah, I don't know why they groom her with the bangs. It doesn't make sense to me, but that's the way that they do it. Oh, it's still showing the Ukrainian message there. Let me kind of turn that off while I talk here. So anyway, the barbarians set up a pretender emperor, which is sketchy at best. So how did they even get away with this? Well, they get away with this again because they are basically the most powerful entity within the Roman Empire at the time when it comes to military. So there we go. got that switched. Let me go over here and turn all the channel point redemptions back on because I realized that I still have those off as well. So this doesn't go over very well, and the Romans don't particularly care for Priscus, so he doesn't have a lot of power. And even though he does have some people that are going to sort of stick around and be his lackeys, he doesn't really ever get completely recognized. So he's going to get booted and then subsequently killed. And what puppy? Now the big puppy wants to get in my lap. Oh, good gracious, big puppy. Come here. Come on. Hello. Yes, I know. I gave small puppy attention. Oh, I know. I gave Pearl a cuddle. How dare I do such a thing? How dare I forget the big puppy? Oh my goodness. I know. Do you want to come get in my lap too? You big furball. You're okay. I just... Oh, don't start talking back to me. I know it. I know. Brrr. Go play with Pearl. I literally just turned the opinion hat button back on and already get hit with an opinion hat. Favorite goths like actual barbarians, or favorite goths like in pop culture kind of stuff? Addams Family. I do like the Addams Family. I like the first Addams Family movie. The second one went off the rails a little bit. My favorite individual goth is probably a guy named Theodoric. We'll talk about him in just a little bit. He's a pretty interesting guy and a pretty powerful leader, and did a lot of stuff that substantially changed the way that the West operated for a while. So he actually managed to hold together a lot of culture. And I also probably have a little bit of a personal kind of affinity for this guy because I've been to a lot of the places where he lived and done stuff, and that always sort of gives a level of interest that's hard to get otherwise. If you ever get a chance to go to Ravenna, it's a really, really cool city, and I'll show some photos of that location here in just a second when we get there. But yeah, I'd have to go with Theodoric. Specifically here, Theodoric the Amal, not Theodoric Strabo. Theodoric Strabo was another Goth who fought against Theodoric the Amal and was a Magister Militum of the West and caused a whole bunch of trouble in the Balkans. So, ironically, well, maybe not ironically, but sarcastically, Theodoric Strabo means Theodoric the Squinter. So he was squinty. So I don't trust that guy very much. But Theodoric the Amal, probably my favorite goth. Powerful dude. Underhanded and sneaky, yeah, can't deny that. Kind of power hungry, can't deny that either. But through it all, manages to hold a lot of stuff together. So pretty interesting, pretty important dude. So that's what I would say. There's the opinion hat. I don't know if I have like a cult goth favorite thing. I don't really even know if I would know anybody that would consider themselves a goth in the cult personality world. I know there are a whole bunch of bands that got like, death metal gothy, but I don't think I can name any of them. But anyway, in 410, there's another big invasion of the Goths into Italy. Priscus by this point is no more. But Alaric brings in the Goths again, and in 410, this is actually the sacking of Rome, the first time that Rome had been invaded by a foreign army in hundreds and hundreds of years. I mentioned this last Thursday. so we don't necessarily have to go completely into it. But what's going to end up happening is that the Visigoths are going to go on a rather interesting tour of the West here. So they're going to come out of here and go down into Italy, and they're eventually going to be driven out of Italy, and then they move up here to this region right here, especially to the city of Toulouse, which is right about here in France. And then they're going to set themselves up a neat little kingdom. And while they hold this territory right here, mostly just along the river, sort of little fertile strip right here, you can see how it even looks geographically different. Even though they have a nice little chunk of land and they're happy, they don't just stop there. They're actually going to move down here and take over all of the Hispania province as well. This is a big chunk of territory that they end up with, and by the time that the Goths are done, if we look at the end of the 5th century, which is sort of what we're talking about right now, the Visigoths have set up this sized kingdom, which is pretty big. What's up, Viper? It's good to see you. Yeah, we started without you. To be fair, I did just goof around for a little while at the beginning, and then even stopped and put up the break screen to get some tea. So we tried to wait for you. We tried. But this is the Visigothic kingdom, somewhere around 500 of the current era. It's a pretty big chunk, and they're going to stay around for quite some time. And we'll be talking about the Visigoth kingdom for at least another 3 streams, because they hang around until 700. Was Spain a giant arid chunk in the middle back then too, or was it temperate at the time? It was more temperate at that particular point. So the giant arid chunk that Moose is referring to are these central highlands right here. And yes, the particular region here was a bit more fertile, but it wasn't, like coastal great flat territory. It did have a substantial amount of metal deposits, which is one of the biggest reasons why Rome loved this area. The mountains are full of minerals, things like silver especially. They got a lot of the silver that they used for hundreds of years from mines in Spain, but also iron, a little bit of gold, not too terribly much. But silver and iron and tin and copper and zinc. You can find all that stuff in these big mountains right here, the Pyrenees region, if you will. But not as green as something like, southwestern France down here, but more arid than it is. Yes, for hunting down the werewolves, right? The Persians had employed the giant werewolf division somewhere around the 270s BC, and have any of you non-Europeans ever heard of Andorra? Yeah, Andorra's right here. The capital is Andorra la Vella. Or technically be Andorra la Vella, because it's Spanish. Yeah, it's right here. Andorra la Vella. Not me. I love that. Hey, you people that aren't Europeans, do you know anything about this thing? Like, yeah, I do. Not you. You're I guess I don't count as an American, huh? Oh, that was pretty good. That was pretty good. That was a good laugh. Yeah, Andorra, like the mom from Bewitched. There's a little micro country right here that was part of the original Christian kingdoms of the area that ends up being part of the larger Reconquista of the peninsula from the Muslims that come in and take over in the 700s. But that's, of course, several hundred years later when the Reconquista is going on. So, you know everything. I don't know everything. You know about it, but you went on a school trip. Yeah, yeah, I remember you mentioning that, Nix, that you had gone to Andorra. I would love to go there. I have this sort of fascination with very very small countries. Like I want to go to Monaco, which is right over here on the French coast. I really want to go to San Marino, which is right over here, sort of kind of just stuck in Italy. Um, but I don't know. I just like traveling, and I think that going to these little micro countries would be kind of fun. Um, I've actually sort of been looking at, well, this is not necessarily important to the stream, but since we're talking about really small countries, Luxembourg has some pretty neat forests that are sort of like national forests, like this big one right here. Uh, and there's some pretty neat stuff going on where you can do some hiking and things. There's also uh, everybody's favorite Liechtenstein. So it's another place I'd like to go. But anyway, yeah, I like travel. I want to go everywhere. You was going to ask about San Marino after they were on Russia's unfriendly list. I did not know that they were on Russia's unfriendly list. Did they say something truthful? That's a good way to get on Russia's unfriendly list. Save me. You're at work and you will not be home for 2 more hours. Tuna, unfortunate. That's very late. Is there like a show or production something going on that's keeping you there late? Because it should be 5 where you are. 5:30, yeah. Did you know that the highest population density on Earth is in an island off the coast of Italy? It has 1 million Sicilian people. You don't even know how many zeros that is. Um, that's 6 zeros. I did not know that that particular island was the highest population density on Earth. I would have guessed that it would be some city in India or some subset or some blocks of a big city in India or China. Um, that was a joke. I missed the joke completely. This class runs until 6, then an hour and a half minimum. Oh, dude, that sucks. I did not know that it took you an hour and a half to drive to and from work. That is horrible. Oh, you're making a joke about Sicily. I still don't get it though because Sicily's not very densely populated. Million skillion. Okay, 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 okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. Unfriendly list. This also includes Taiwan, so China was probably like, dude, what the. uh, look up Palmdale to Burbank. LA is big. LA has too many people, and it scares me how many people LA has. Unfriendly list of people. Oh, yeah. Lots of UK islands. Oh, look at there. It's crazy how many of these countries overlap with NATO. What are you going to do to Liechtenstein? I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of tired of Russia. You know how high gas prices are right now. Higher than they've been in a long time, perhaps even ever. But yeah, yeah. Um, but I heard that if gas prices are too bad for you, you should just go buy a $60,000 electric vehicle. But I don't know if I should continue on that line of thought. What about the other Goths? The Ostrogoths. Ostrogoths. Who are they? Well, they're from the east. Ostra, like Istra, which is where we get east. Eastern Goths. These particular Goths are not already in the, or not completely in the Roman Empire already by the time that a lot of the stuff goes down. Some of these Goths, the Ostrogoths, are actually with the Huns. So what's crazy is that the original Gothic homeland, and we'll talk about this Tuesday when we do our origin of Germanic peoples, and it's really kind of weird how all of this stuff just started lining up with things like the Weimar Republic viewer request stream and the origin of the Germanic peoples request stream, that all this stuff sort of lines up with us talking about barbarians. So we're going to get lots of Germanic heritage and history. Well, we've already gotten quite a bit of it, and we're going to get more of it on Tuesday when we do history of the Germanic peoples. But they come from sort of this region over here, and this is the area where the Huns are moving through, and they actually pick up more of the Goths and bring them over here into the empire. And a lot of these people are going to mix with the existing Goths and sort of make cultural ties again. There are several different groups of Goths, and they all have individual names like Thuringi and Huringi, and we're not going to necessarily go into all of that stuff because honestly, it gets really confusing, and most people, unless you're writing a dissertation and stuff, you don't really necessarily need to know all of this. But the idea here is that in response to them helping against the Huns, they're going to end up getting a bit of territory of their own. And specifically here, the Emperor Marcian, this is not Martian like I come from Mars, but Marcian, it's Marcian, is going to settle them in the region of Pannonia, which is right around here, down here in the Balkan Peninsula. And this does not go over very well with a lot of the local Greek people who had been quite useful, or quite used rather, to being their own sort of power and running their own little states inside of the Roman Empire. So much so that some of the cities had even kind of gone back to being a little bit independent. But here come all of these Goths, and there we go. That's a bit of a mess. Gas prices go up like a rocket and down like a feather. That's true. Ostrich Goth? Yeah, that's an interesting picture, Schmonite. I don't know where you could find a choker that long. Or would you just wear one, like right under the bill? Or would you have to cover the choker along the entire neck for it to be an actual choker for an ostrich? That's an interesting question. It's kind of like how dogs wear pants, right? Wait, is this Star Trek or real life? Is this the Star Trek life? Is this just fantasy? Ostrogoths. Yeah, there we go. Those ruling Goths of the East. You said Ferengi. Did I say Ferengi? No. I said Thuringi. Which is one of the groups of the Goths. And sometimes you also see that spelled Thuringi. Like that. But it's usually Thuringi. Also, hey, Cherry, good to see you. All right, so Ostrogoths, they're going to come over, they're going to fight against the Huns, eventually get their freedom, and then they're going to settle down here. But they're not happy just kind of staying there, as none of them are. But they do get federati status in 454, and things are going okay. And this is when the dude that I just mentioned is really going to show up. His name is Theodoric, and Theodoric looks like this. Old Theodoric. He's got himself a fancy little haircut. Hey, Vid, good to see you. Cool little Roman outfit. They fought for freedom with William Wallace, right? No, this is about a good 1,000 years or so before William Wallace. But close enough, right? Lampshade. That's his hair. It's just a specific hairstyle. I don't know exactly how you do that, but that's what his hair looks like. So, Theodoric, interesting guy. He takes over the Ostrogoths. His mom cut it. Yeah. My mom put gel in my hair. I don't think anybody got that reference, though. If you got that gel in the hair reference, just let me know. I doubt anybody did. That's a giant, deep nerd cut. So Theodoric is going to end up being a pretty powerful figure. The Eastern Roman Emperor Zeno, in an attempt to try to stabilize the Western Empire, is going to make Theodoric Magister Militum, and this is going to sort of give Theodoric operational power inside of the West to try to bring some of these other barbarian groups into line. Theodoric does really know how to play pretty well in the game because Theodoric ends up being raised mostly in Constantinople with Zeno. And as a kid, this is originally because he was a political hostage, but it does look like there is some friendship going on here between the Eastern Roman Emperor Zeno and Theodoric, and there was at least a basis of trust. Now, Theodoric did not always keep that trust very well, but there was at least a basis of it there. And so Zeno, of course, has his own troubles going on in the eastern part of the empire. He can't send big armies to the west. The one time he does try to send big armies to the west, it fails miserably and catastrophically, and he loses his entire army, and it almost bankrupts the east and causes a whole bunch of crazy stuff to happen. So Theodoric is going to end up taking over most of Italy almost directly. And this is going to be after the Western Roman Empire falls. There's a guy named Odoacer, who we talked about last week, that finally deposes the last of the Roman emperors in 476. He sets up a kingdom in Italy and then decides that he's going to basically, kind of run everything. But that doesn't last very long. So if we want to look at the kingdom that Odoacer takes over, it's this region right here. But you can see here Ostrogoths already on the map, and Theodoric is going to come over and take all of this territory for himself and create a much larger kingdom of the Ostrogoths that sits right here. And from the city of Ravenna, where he makes his capital, he's basically going to start trying to act a lot like a Roman would. And I can even show you some of the stuff that he made to try to prove his Romanitas. And to do that, I get to put on the adventure hat. So, if you don't remember, this is the adventure hat. And when I get to show photographs or talk about things that I have, or I guess show things that I have seen directly, I get to wear the adventure hat. He did not make the hat. The hat is much newer. He did construct this building. This is in the modern city of Ravenna, and this particular church is called Apollinare Nuevo, Saint Apollinare Nuevo. And the building here is a pretty good church building for the size. This is still very, very early in Christianity. This would have been one of the larger buildings in northern Italy that was a church. And specifically here, you get all this fancy schmancy stuff on the outside of it. And you're like, well, why is a barbarian making such a big deal about building churches? Well, I mean, let's remember that the Roman Empire had Christianized, so how better to show that you're a good Roman than to build yourself a nice looking church? So, nice big tower here, got some columns going, got a nice big facade. And on the inside, it's just absolutely cool. Now, I've got a whole bunch more photos of this, but we can't, unfortunately, right now go through every single one of these. But everything from about here up on both of these walls is mosaic. So these huge mosaics, like all these figures are people. Oops, sorry, I went too far. Like these guys. And these are all life-size mosaics. And I showed this particular picture on purpose because what's interesting here, this is the three wise men. And above them, you can see that they have been given names. Balthazar, Melchior, and Gaspar. And this is arguably some art historians consider this particular image the first time that we actually see these names in a piece of art associated with the three wise men. Working towards releasing the full fury of these photos. Oh, thanks, Kyle. Hey, Martes, what's up, man? Good to see you. Also, hey, Kyle. So yeah, this particular image is important historically speaking because this might be the first time that you see these names attached to the wise men. Um, we don't actually know the names of any of the people that showed up. This is all based on tradition. But again, this is all mosaic. It's super cool, very fine mosaic. These nice big pillars here, marble floor. This has been redone. This particular area was damaged by a fire and has been repainted in the 1400s, I believe. But all of this stuff would be original to the building. So it's a pretty neat building, and you can go see it as part of a walking tour of the city of Ravenna. It's a beautiful place to be. Oh yeah, we're doing Adventure Hat. I took those photos in 2017 when we went to Italy. That was a good time. So we have a kingdom of the Visigoths. We have a kingdom of the Ostrogoths. Who's next? Well, these guys. But specifically here, those people are called the Franks. Now, who are the Franks? Well, these people are originally some Germanic folk that come from, that originally developed an individual identity somewhere here in this eastern part of the Rhine River Valley, right? If you'll remember, there's a nice river that runs right here that's sort of the natural boundary between what used to be Rome and what was barbarian territory. But in this sort of churn of people groups, a group of Germanics end up kind of splitting off and creating their own little tribes. And there's like Salic Franks and there are all sorts of different Franks. But they're going to develop a unique identity and they're going to move over into the Roman territory in the early 400s. Pigeon Goths. I don't know who Pigeon Goths are. Must be nice to go to these places and be able to say something other than ooh and ah. Vipers. Next time that you see my wife around the net, ask her how annoying I can be at a historical site. I pick these places on purpose to go to, and oh my gosh, I'm probably I'm probably unbearable. I don't even know. See, the thing is, like, I just get excited and I start talking, and I don't really know how I come across, and to a certain extent, I don't even really care. I know that there have been multiple instances where I've been talking and I've looked to see if the person that I was talking to was listening and they had sort of walked off. So I was just kind of talking to nobody. I will also randomly assume the position of tour guide if some random person is walking around and asks a question like, I wonder what that is, and I know the answer, I'll just be, oh, well, let me tell you. We were at a Native American mound in, it was about a couple of hours west of us a few years ago for our anniversary. And these people from Canada had shown up and they were just like walking around and looking at stuff. And I heard one of them ask a question, and that turned into about 30 minutes of me just like spieling about this Native American mound and all of the orientation and all of the stuff. And I have no idea if those people absorbed any of that. But I love talking about stuff. And it's really interesting. I think I would like to think that having me at a location would be an interesting thing to have. So it could also be annoying, but you know, I have a good time. Pigeon Goths are pretty cool. Plot twist, they were French Canadians and had no clue what Shane was saying the whole time. They could speak English. They were talking to each other in English. This is how I recognize that they had questions. You think it depends on if you have the hat or not. I did have the hat at that particular location. I'd be more interested in the fact that we went to a cemetery for our anniversary. No. So the particular mound that we were at was not a cemetery mound. It was a festival mound. And it's very, very, very big. And they used to have entire tribal-sized games on top of it. Well, here, since we're already talking about it, I'll show it to you. I've shown it before on stream. Exhausted, gotta go to bed. All right, Sci-Fi, take it easy. Hope you have a good one. Yeah, so this is the mound that we went to. It's called Emerald Mound. It's the second largest Native American mound in the continental United States. The only one bigger is Cahokia. It's in Illinois. This one's in Mississippi. It's just a few hours down the road. Oh, they've added photos. Check it. Yeah, so this is from atop the western mound. Yeah, so all of this that you see right here. Oh, yeah. All of this, like this whole area right here is the top of a Native American mound. It's not natural, right? So the ground is over here, and then this comes up about 60 feet, and then on top of this is another 30 feet. So you're almost 100 feet up in the air. Looks like your backyard. If you have a backyard that big, that's a big old backyard. Man, I love this place. Super cool. Super cool. Do they have one from the ground? Can we take a picture from the ground? No. Maybe they have a better one that shows the steepness of the sides. Well, that's not even a photo. Don't lie to me. Nah, you can't see it. Anyway, it's a very, very large Native American mound. There's a funny story about this side of the hill that I'm pretty sure that I've turned before. Get on with it. Okay, I'm getting on with it. Long story short, I've fallen off of this mound before and survived. So, who are the Franks? They are they're Germans. They move into the Roman Empire around like the mid 300s, and by 358 they had fought several wars with the Romans, and they are going to get some federati status. I've got to get on with it. I was told to get on with it. So the Franks are they're going to go up against I'm pretty sure he was emperor at that time, a guy named Julian, who was the nephew of Constantine the Great, who then goes on to convert to paganism and is known as Julian the Apostate. But the Franks are going to be one of the very early federati groups, and they're specifically going to be used very frequently against the Saxons. So if you've ever wondered why the region of Saxony, the Saxons, or the Anglo-Saxons and the English don't really get along with the Franks, this is actually something that goes way, 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 way back in history. Specifically, though, the Franks had begun to blockade travel back and forth between England, which is troublesome, right? So you got to sort of pay them off, and you got to get them in your side. But they're going to start expanding. And specifically, they're going to be expanding along the bank of the Somme River. And this is going to sort of be like the old homeland of the Franks. And they're going to be one of the earlier tribes to begin to Romanize. You're going to start seeing generals that are going to be allowed into even the Roman army, like a guy named Arbogast, who's a big emperor, or not an emperor, a big general in the later Roman Empire, who's a Frank. They're going to produce a lot of people that are really tight with the Romans. And when the Romans are going to fall in 476, this is going to sort of leave the Franks hanging, because the support from the Romans had allowed the Franks to prosper quite a bit. And this is going to end up causing a little bit of a stir, and they're going to have to start fighting off a lot more of these barbarians to hold on to their territory. In comes a guy named Clovis. Clovis is the king of the Franks, or a king of some of the Franks. And in 486, he is going to beat up some of the other Franks and claim the title King of all Franks. And this is going to set off a war that is going to last for about the next 20 years, where he has to subsequently beat up all of the other Franks. He also ends up beating up some of the other barbarians. He fights against the Burgundians. He fights against the Visigoths. And even though he declares himself king of the Franks in 486, it takes until 508 for him to actually get on the board as sort of undisputed king of the Franks. And Clovis is going to be a pretty important character, mostly because of stuff like what you see here. Hey, Lumpy, what's up? This particular scene, where it looks like they are shoving him into some sort of hole in the ground, is actually the baptism of Clovis. Because Clovis is going to convert to Christianity and get baptized. And with him, he brings the entire kingdom of the Franks. And this is going to be sort of a big deal, because a lot of these barbarians weren't the good kind of Christian, or they weren't Christian at all. Real life is rough this week. Lumpy, I'm sorry to hear that, man. I hope things get better, and I hope that the weekend has restorative and panaceic effects for you. He looks really happy about it. Well, the thing about the Clovis baptism thing is he was not really excited about it anyway. So maybe this is actually a depiction of historical accuracy, because he got baptized, but then he kept saying stuff like, why can't I have multiple wives? And the popes were like, dude, no, you like one wife. And he's like, we've had one wife, yes, but what about second wives? And the popes are like, no, you can't do that. And he's like, how about concubines? And they're like, are they officially your wife? And he's like, yes. They're like, no, that's not a concubine then. And he also kills a whole bunch of people, and he murders some of his own family. And the popes are like, no, bad Christians. Not the good kind of Christian equals Arianism. Correct, Nintendo. This is accurate. Arians were the biggest sort of Christian sect represented among all of the barbarians. Did you miss all the barbarians? Yeah, not all of them, but some. Clovis was a PR nightmare. He was a PR nightmare. Like, hey, we've got a barbarian king lined up with us. Which one is it? We don't want to say. They are the hobbits of significant otherworld. Yeah, pretty much. What's up, Vandrill? Good to see you. Welcome in. I'm glad you got to drop by too. Feel free to chat, throw out silly things, ask questions. You get to participate at whatever level you feel comfortable. As long as you feel welcome, you're doing it the right way. Um, so, yeah, Clovis was kind of a hot mess when it came to being a good representative of Christianity. But what I was saying earlier is that, also, hey, Kelly, good to see you. Um, that some barbarians had converted to Christianity uh, quite a while before this, but the version of Christianity that they converted to was Arianism. And if you'll remember our stream from the 300s when Rome converted to Christianity, or if you didn't, I'll tell you. Arianism was a heretical version of Christianity that basically said that Jesus was a created being instead of being actually full God. And of course, this did not jive with the Nicene version of Christianity that was settled at the Council of Nicaea. So, you know, these barbarians being bad Christians didn't sit very well. Theodoric, by the way, Theodoric the Amal, had been an Arian before he converted to Nicene Christianity and then got the okay to start building all these churches. So Arianism was at least moderately popular with a lot of these barbarian groups. But this did not mean that they were sort of in good with the rest of the Christian Romans. More human than humane, right? So Clovis converted to cement the power. Yeah. So the idea was that he was going to convert to Christianity and become sort of an ally of the good people in the Western the Western part of the Roman world, and he was going to be allied with the good people like the Goths that were the good Christians. The Visigoths were Arian Christians. The Burgundians were neither. The Vandals were nominally Arian. The Ostrogoths under Theodoric converted to Nicene Christianity. But this was sort of a nod to the importance of the Bishop of Rome, aka the Pope, and getting the Pope on your side meant that you had somebody that could argue and make authoritative deals, because all of the Roman citizens, of course, that were left over from the fall of the empire were going to be more aligned with the Nicene Christianity. So this is also sort of a thing where you've taken over these areas who still have leftover Roman populations, and you want to get in good with those people so they don't see you as a usurper. They just see you as a I don't know, kind of an agent, right? Like if they've taken over and he's converted to the good Christianity, maybe God has sent him to spare us from the other evil barbarians. See what I'm saying? What time period are we discussing now? You got thrown off with the Ukraine stream. We are in the 5th century. So this is the year 400 to the year 500. And specifically, we're talking about the very, very tail end when we're discussing the Franks. Clovis becomes king of a tribe of Franks in 486. And we're actually cheating just a little bit because he becomes king of all of the Franks in 508, which is just a little bit after where we would normally stop. You're picturing the energy of Walter from The Big Lebowski. Clovis definitely is okay with, just cocking the gun and just going off to shoot somebody. We'll talk about Clovis again when we come back around next time. Clovis goes on an expansion spree and takes over a whole big chunk of Central Europe. All right. So there is that. Next group. A group called the Vandals. Oh, the Vandals. Who are they and what's up with them? Well, the Vandals are kind of an interesting group because we don't know exactly where they came from. There are a lot of different sort of suspicions about the Vandal groups. Some historians say that they were Germanic. Some historians are going to say that they were Slavic. Some historians even go so far as to say that they were Scandinavian. I, on a personal level, do sort of like the Scandinavian angle. The Vandals are a punk band. Clovis and the Vandals sounds like an indie rock band. Clovis is the king of the Franks, though. So the king of the Vandals that we're about to talk about, I'll go ahead and give this to you if it makes your band name easier. The name of the big king of the Vandals is Geyseric. So Geyseric and the Vandals. That I don't know what that sounds like, but it's a band that I'd probably be interested in listening to at least a little bit. um, so who are they really? It's hard to say, but we know that around the year 100 or so, the first real big elements of them that we're able to identify show up sort of over here in this sort of blend of where Germany and Poland are going to border. But also right here around this Baltic area. So this region right here specifically lends itself just as likely to being Germanic or Slavic or Scandinavian, because those people were all in this area, which is why it's really so hard to kind of figure out exactly who the Vandals were. But by the time we get to the 400s, the Vandals are going to be coming under pressure from the Huns, especially after 406. In 406, the Rhine River freezes, and a whole bunch of barbarians move out of this territory and into Rome. And the Vandals don't really all come over. Some of the Vandals do, but some of the Vandals are going to stay here. And the Huns are going to move from this region over here to fill up this sort of empty void. And a lot of the Vandals are going to get mixed in with the Huns. And that's going to be kind of an interesting mix here, because you're going to have different tribes of Vandals, and some of them are going to be on one side of the Rhine, and some of them are going to be on the other side of the Rhine. But the group that comes over initially is going to basically run square into the Franks, right? They cross the Rhine, and then they hit the Franks. And the Vandals and the Franks do not get along at all. The Franks had been established in that area for a substantially longer period of time, and they had more Roman support. So the Vandals are going to end up getting sort of bumped around. And they are going to sort of bump around here into France, and they're going to run into the Visigoths, and they're like, oh crap, we can't really deal with them too much either. So they end up down here in Spain. And for a little while, in the very early 400s, the Vandals are actually going to be the initial group that takes Spain away from the Romans. But when they do that, this is actually going to attract the Visigoths, who come down here and push the Vandals out of Spain. So then the Vandals end up down here in northern Africa. That sounds more like metal. No, seriously, the Vandals were a highly successful band in the 80s and 90s. They have an album called When in Rome, Do as the Vandals, and another album called Hitler Bad, Vandals Good. I'm sort of surprised that I've never heard of them. That seems like somebody that I should have heard of. I'll have to check them out. Kelly, if you've got like a best song list from them and you want to throw that in the Discord, I'd be happy to give them an ear. The feud between the Vandals and the Franks, this week on Rock History. Right? So the Vandals are going to end up down here in northern Africa. And they're going to end up expanding. So they take northern Africa. They're going to add these little islands right here, which are called the Balearics. They're going to take Corsica and Sardinia, and then they're going to take Sicily. So the Vandals have themselves a nice little kingdom. And you go, well, how are they so successful in getting all these islands? Well, it turns out that the Vandals can make boats. Yeah. So this to me is really good evidence that they were Scandinavians, because Scandinavians are really good boat makers. So it's kind of a heritage thing for them that they know how to make boats. Yeah, I'm with you. Geyseric and the Vandals sounds like a metal band. Probably some like black metal or like angry metal. I can't remember all the different genres of metal. But yeah, definitely some like very loud, very kind of metal. So, yeah. But around this time is where Geyseric comes into his kingdom, and they're going to take big chunks of northern Africa. They're going to hold all this territory for quite some time. Rome is actually going to end up having to cede land to them. By the time we get to 430s, Rome is actually end up having to give them territory. They're going to end up taking Carthage, a big city, by 439. They basically take it without a fight. And they're going to turn themselves into a pirate barbarian horde. Any trade that moves through the Mediterranean in the west is going to end up having to run past Vandal ships. So if you're trying to do anything in this area, they are going to catch you and extort money from you or extract tolls. They're going to maybe steal your stuff and put some of your people in slavery. You know, taco metal is the tastiest metal. I don't know what that means, but if I bit into a taco and tasted metal, that just I don't think I want that. I don't like metallic taste in my mouth anyway. Anyway. But who is this Geiseric guy? Well, he's actually powerful enough that he ends up printing coins in his own image. And again, this is from that late 400 period where everybody has just gigantic eyes and some super pointy nose. But here is Geiseric, king of the Vandals. And this dude actually is a pretty powerful king and lives for a really, really long time. He lives up into his 80s and was doing stuff in the field all the way up through his like 70s. He's a pretty crazy dude. There's going to be a bit of a scandal here, right? So we mentioned this a little bit last time, but I like to talk about it here a little bit more in specific. The Emperor Valentinian III, when he was on the throne in 455, is going to start to try to make deals with the Vandals, specifically because Rome needed food. And the northern African region was a breadbasket for the Roman Empire, and the Vandals were basically extorting gigantic prices out of the Romans. And one of the things that ends up trying to sort of happen here is that Valentinian suggests that Geiseric marries into the royal family of Rome. And they set up this big marriage, and they're going to have this big ceremony. But Valentinian III actually ends up getting killed before this goes through. Valentinian was killed by one of his own supporters. And then the guy that sort of tried to save him ends up getting killed himself, and then that guy ends up getting stoned by the Roman public. But anyway, the Vandals are going to break into Rome in 455. They're going to take just tons and tons and tons of loot. They're going to also take the Empress and the Princess, and they're going to go back to Rome. To Northern Africa, and this is going to be kind of a big deal. And the Roman attempt at retaliation here is not particularly well organized. This is going to be sort of the last ride of Majorian. Majorian was one of the last good Roman emperors, probably the last good Roman emperor. But he's going to be defeated in 460. The East and the West are going to try to team up in 468 to take down the Vandals, and they can't. And when the western part of the Roman Empire falls in 476, the Eastern Romans are going to decide that the only way that they can really handle this situation is to actually make peace with the Vandals. And Geiseric dies in 477, and that is going to sort of be the last thing that he does. The Vandals and Eastern Rome make a peace treaty, and then he dies, and then there's sort of a scuffle over who's going to be next in line. But we will talk more about the Vandals in streams to come. Now, who is left? Well, we have one more group. You're going to press coins with my face onto them to mess with future historians. I don't think that's what they were doing, but I don't know, maybe. The Burgundians. I'm Ron Burgundy? You should also carve your name into monuments. Yeah. So, who are the Burgundians? Who are these people? Where do they come from? The Burgundians are definitely Scandinavian people, specifically Scandinavian island people that are going to come from these little islands. Where's my map here? Nope, you. From these little islands around here and these little islands that are off the coast of the Baltic Sea. And they're going to move onto the mainland around 200 or so. And by the later part of the 200s, they're going to sort of mix in with the larger groups of barbarian people moving around in this area. And they're going to move a little bit further south. And the Burgundians are never really a big group. They always end up being that group that everybody wants to sway. So, in a certain way, the Burgundians are like the swing voters or the independent voters in a two-party system, or they're the deciders. If there's a big alliance between two groups of barbarians that are roughly equitable, both of them are going to try to get the Burgundians on their side. And the Burgundians get pretty good at playing all of these other larger tribes off of each other to the benefit of the Burgundians. Rockin' and a reelin' at this point. Shane has given you permission to tell us how annoying he is at historical sites. It's a mix between annoying and adorable. Were there Chartrusians as well? Perhaps Magentians? What's up, Batbird? Good to see you. I like Chartrusians, though. They're the ones that settle in France. Specifically that really bright green part of France. Magentians does actually sound like a group. Anyway. The color burgundy comes from their coat of arms, by the way. We call it that because it was the Burgundian color. So the color comes from their name, not the name comes from their color. Just as a note. Just like the color orange comes from the city crest of the cities in orange, the original name for that color was not orange. Right? Safarians, yeah. That sounds like a Middle Eastern tribe, right? Hey, Risu, good to see you. I'm glad to see you around. How are you? Good to see you. It's been a while. When are the touring historical sites with Shane audiobook series starting?
We're here at St. Apollinare Nuevo in Ravenna, and I'm looking at the western wall. There are 3 rows here of very detailed mosaics. The top row is broken between arched windows and individual scene mosaics of Jesus' life and important events from Jesus' life in the Bible. The second row is alternating large floral designs with specific figures from the Old Testament and New Testament. Now, along the bottom row, we actually have life-size representations of various male saints. And if we turn to the eastern wall, we have similar motifs on the top and middle, but instead of male saints along the bottom, we actually have female saints. The end caps are scenes specifically from the life of Theodoric on the southernmost sides, and the scene of Christ's birth on the left-hand side, and him being enthroned as Christ Imperator on the right.
That's actually a description of St. Apollinare Nuevo. And if that's something that would float your boat, I might actually want to do something like that. I don't know. Would that be worth something to anybody? Not with Shane, with Shaney the Elder. I guess I am kind of becoming the elder at this point. So, anyway, the Burgundians. They're the smaller group. They're good at playing off of others. They're going to end up becoming a federati unit in 406 because they had already sort of moved into the Roman Empire already, and they were kind of more interested in siding with Rome than trying to make their way among all these new barbarians that had invaded. So they sort of throw in with the Romans. There are still going to be some that end up staying on the far side of the Rhine that are going to end up being a little bit more aligned with people like the Huns. But the majority of the Burgundians are going to come across into what is today southern France and set themselves up a little kingdom. And this is actually going to get sort of justified and ratified by the Romans in 443. And they're going to end up being instrumental in the larger fight against Attila at the Battle of Catalonian Plains in 451. Now, the Burgundians are going to prove somewhat fitful allies. They're going to be good for the Romans when the Romans need them to be, but they're also going to be bad when the Romans don't need them to be. And especially in the middle 450s, the Burgundians are going to do a lot of stuff that help the Romans out. They're going to sort of help pacify some of the Iberian tribes that had revolted, especially the Sueves, in the 450s and the 460s. But overall, the Burgundians are going to sort of see the writing on the wall and recognize that Rome is done, and they're going to kind of retreat back to their little territory and just kind of sit there for a little while. Maybe my ex is a Burgundian. Ooh. But if we look here, we can see the Kingdom of Burgundy, and it's here sort of at the northern part of Italy and the southeastern corner here of France. Good little Kingdom of Burgundy. They're going to hang around for a while, and we'll talk about them in the future as well. They have interesting kings like Gundobad and a lot of people that are pretty cool, but I could not find any depictions of them that I thought were contemporary or accurate, so I did not choose any. But we'll talk about the Burgundians again. So that's where Ron comes from. Yes, he's related to a long line of southern French nobility, which explains his exusion of sex appeal and his ability to improvise and just sort of his general, I don't know, attractiveness, I guess. I'm the king of Burgundy? What's up, JMR? How's it going, my friend? Hope you're doing well. We've got some people here. Let's do the shout outs. If you are not already, go give JMR a follow. JMR is a great streamer who does several different things. Usually is either playing games or building various things. Has been working on some Gundams lately, which is sort of close to my heart. Has been playing some games lately. Just started Jedi Fallen Order, which is an amazing game if you want to watch somebody play Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Fallen Over. This is what happens when Luke decides to get really, really fat and can't walk around anymore. He is Jedi Fallen Over. If you want to watch someone play Jedi Fallen Order, go give JMR a follow. He also has been playing Zelda on weekend mornings, which is like, heart. I'm doing pretty well. Shout out lets his name out. We've got Batbird. I haven't seen Batbird stream lately, but Batbird does stream. Doing art and sometimes playing games. Always a good time. Go give Batbird a follow. We've got, who else was here? I know I saw somebody else. Oh, we got Lumpy. Lumpy Dragon Potato, who is a Minecraft builder. Typically streams in the mornings, working on an ever-expanding and incredibly amazing kingdom of Dragon Song. You should go check it out. It sort of makes me feel like I'm a kid building stuff with Legos again. But also having good discussion. It's like I'm a kid, but I also get to exercise that part of my brain that's like, but what if? So go give Lumpy a follow. Did I miss anybody? I think that's everybody. If I missed you and you stream, let me know. I'll be happy to say something nice about you. But yeah, okay, so that's actually sort of all that I had planned. And this is partially because well, if I'm just being honest, I spent a lot of energy this weekend putting together a 3+ hour long stream on Ukraine. And I've been kind of trying to play energy level catch up since then. So I did not get a gigantic amount. There's a little gnat flying around me. It's driving me crazy. I did not get a gigantic head start on this. On a side note, beginning to get a bit hyped up because the areas we're getting to right now, because you know some of it. Cool, dude. That's good to know. As always, feel free to throw some of that stuff in. If you've got some pertinent information or if you've been somewhere, if you've got some photos, throw that stuff in the Discord, man. We will talk about it. And we'll have a good time. What if you don't stream, but you still want to hear nice things say about me? Everybody go follow Foggage, who doesn't stream, but is always very kind and makes really good jokes when it needs to be. Got good comedic timing. Also has insightful questions that always makes me sort of go like, yeah, that's a good question. So go give Foggage a follow because he's a cool dude and deserves to be followed, right? So there we go. All right. The Kyle Wright doesn't do anything. I'll shout out the Kyle Wright. The Kyle Wright doesn't stream, but has become a really dear friend. One of the few people that I've met on Twitch that I have actually made the effort to meet in person. On a list of 3 people that are there. Kyle's a good dude, an incredibly talented filmmaker, somebody that I hope gets to direct the next blockbuster film, and I fully expect to one day be in a position to maybe ride his coattails into some minor little thing where maybe one day somebody will need some absolute nobody historical reference on a movie that they can pay $1,000 and get to ramble about something. I hope that's me. Kyle has made... okay, here's what I can do. Let me see. Let me see if I can find it. Aha. Kyle did make this. This is a short documentary about Stan Sakai, who is an amazing comic book author and illustrator, one of my favorites. I have been reading Usagi Yojimbo comics since the mid-90s. It was one of the things that I went to go dig through the dollar box for when I got the opportunity and had the extra money. But Kyle actually knows Stan really well. For those of you that don't know, Stan is the author and illustrator of Usagi Yojimbo, one of the longest running and best comics that I think I've ever read. And I'm not saying that just because Stan's an amazing human being. It really is a good story. But Stan is really good friends with Kyle, and Kyle had the amazing opportunity to make a documentary about Stan, and it's a really good show. It's a really good little show. It's a short video, so it's not too terribly long, but definitely go give that a look. And next time you're running into a studio exec that says, man, we really need somebody that can do like all of the stuff, you go, hey, I know this guy. You can phone in your consultation for his next film, right? Or be a production assistant. Sure, I'd take any of that stuff. I'd come on set and be a set lackey. I'd lug all of the stuff. Kyle is also a registered and licensed root beer snob. I don't know if I'd even call it a snob. I would say connoisseur. I think that's the right word. Kyle, you already do. You think too lowly of yourself, my friend. You are an excellent human being. Okay, so you hear lots of people that are like, come on by, the best community on Twitch. They can say that all they want to. You all are the best people on Twitch. I really do mean that. I can have the worst day. I can have the crappiest day ever and get home and I'm like, man, oh, I'm just so tired. And today has sucked. I don't want to do anything. And then I go, I guess I'll just go stream because I'm supposed to. And I'll get on here and it always makes my day better. Always. Always. And I really do appreciate that. There's some magical little thing here on the little corner of Twitch that we have where there are just so many great people. One of the things that I really seriously worry about when I first started doing history on Twitch was the fact that we talk about things that are very, very close to people's lives. And I'd always try to stay as honest as I can about things. And I try to stay as even-handed as I can about things. And sometimes what that means is you kind of have to say the harsh truths about stuff. And I really worried that, man, I'm going to get on there and I'm going to say stuff and people are just going to get like flame war and there's going to be trolls everywhere and it's just going to be like, you know, Argue City and the mods are going to always have to be banning people and kicking people out. I've been doing this now almost 2 years and I have never, ever had to ban an actual person chatting in the stream. And that is a testament to how amazing the community here is. Never. Not a single person in 2 years. Now, of course, my community is not the world's largest, and I'm sure that if we had like 1 million people, there would be, you know, some trolls around. But it's really cool that we challenge accepted. Right? Or even be on your sound team as a utility and open to learn about the sound and that. Plus, oh yeah, Techman. I actually ran sound for bands for quite some times, or quite a long time. I know all about sound stuff and microphones and cables and stuff like that. So there we go. Want to buy followers? I love you all. I really do. You all are awesome people. Your car warranty is expiring. Oh, man. You all. You're cool people, and I appreciate having an opportunity to hang out with you. But that is all that I had planned for the day. But I actually don't have student loan payments. I worked crap tons of jobs when I was in college, and I graduated undergraduate without any debt. But it took a lot. A lot. For most of college, I was working at least 2 jobs. The first year of college, I was working 4 jobs, and then I dropped down to 3. And then the last 2, I was just working 2. So, yeah. So, and then I just took my master's degrees very, very slowly and paid for them out of pocket, which wasn't cheap. But some of that last one was paid for by federal stimulus money, so I'm not going to really complain about that. Anyway, are there any questions about this material or other historical material? Does anybody want to redeem any channel points? Anybody have any questions about anything? Otherwise, we are going to get ourselves oriented and maybe go do a raid. Do a raid. And see who might be around to do the raid. Somebody against whom we might raid. Let's see, do. What we got going on? Black and white movies. You people not using the rank 3 things the right way. So you're asking me for my top 3 black and white movies? You want to know something about Falling from the Moat? Do you mean falling off of the mound? Is that what you're talking about? Okay, so my favorite black and white movies. Um, well, let me ask you this, Kyle. Do they have to be from the age of black and white cinema, or can they be modern movies that were filmed in black and white to be fancy schmancy? Because, I mean, technically, like Schindler's List is a black and white movie, um, but it's not really from like the black and white era, right? I could create a name your top three redemption. Uh, I would have to make that one more because ideologically here, you're supposed to give me three things that I can easily look at and go like, oh yes, I can easily rank these three things. But then when it's like, hey, you think of all of the stuff that you know and come up with the top three things that you might not have ever thought about before, uh, that's a hard one. um, so okay, yeah. See, that's the thing. Like there's a lot. There's a lot. So okay, I can give you the easy ones, right? Just the ones that very easily pop in my head. My favorite one would be Nosferatu. I love Nosferatu. I can rank those very very easily, and it's actually in the order that you put them there. Casablanca, Touch of Evil, Citizen Kane. Hot take. This might be a hot take. Citizen Kane is a crappy movie. Citizen Kane should only be watched as an example of how to do good cinematography. The cinematography in that movie is absolutely amazing. The story is hot garbage and boring as crap. But if you want to know where camera angle shots came from, and if you want to know what forced perspective looks like and how to do light and shadow, and if you want to know how to do establishing shots, Citizen Kane is unparalleled. It literally created those shots. Um, yeah, I mean it invented shots. It literally set the bar. It is the original that things plagiarize off of even today. But the story itself sucks. It's boring. The movie is worth watching so that you can understand the way that it was made, but I don't care for the story at all. It is just not there. But Casablanca is great. Touch of Evil is not as good as Casablanca. Um, so, what would one watch to get a feeling of what cinema was like before it? Um, to get the most proximate example of what stuff would have been on that scale. Oh gosh, that's hard to even suggest. I don't even know. Now, Gone with the Wind was after. Um, so my top three off the top of my head, black and white movies. Number one, Nosferatu. I love Nosferatu. I think it's one of the best horror movies that's ever been made, and I don't say that to be like some sort of film snob douchebag that's like, oh, well, clearly you've not seen the original movie. But in an honest like appraisal of the movie, if you watch Nosferatu and you understand what they were doing and what they had to work with and what the product was with what they made, it's an amazing feat. Nosferatu is really good. Um, I know that this might be a little bit too close to the vest. Well, okay, I'll put it third. Schindler's List is probably the second of my black and white movies, but that's mostly because I think that I had one of the strongest emotional reactions to it. Like it's so Schindler's List is not as good of a movie as something like Casablanca or even some of the classic stuff like Maltese Falcon. Those are probably better movies, but the experience of Schindler's List is well, yeah, I also grew up a lot over the last 10 years. Um, and I've watched a lot of stuff that I thought was garbage and realized that most of that was because I was watching that with certain people. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. Um, but there is, so my number 3 would be a very short little film, and you probably, I don't know if you've heard of it before, but the title is La Voyage dans la Lune. I typed it there in the chat. It's a French film, but it's a very short little sci-fi film. Trip to the Moon is what its title is, and it's from 1902, and I like it for a few reasons. Number one, it's one of the first sci-fi movies that was ever made. That has ever been made. Oh yeah, I love Young Frankenstein. That's and there's a lot of good stuff that's been popping up in chat here, by the way. So it's one of the first movies ever. Yeah, sure, but like it's probably I can't remember if it's the first sci-fi movie or one of the first sci-fi movies. But it's really interesting that this sort of sets off this whole genre, and it's very sort of it's based on a Jules Verne book, and it's very short. I mean, it's like 15 minutes long. Is it older than Metropolis? I think so. I can't remember when the original Metropolis came out, but I know that Journey to the Moon or Trip to the Moon came out in 1902. Let me see. Yeah, Metropolis came out in 1927, so it's 25 years older. Yeah. So there's also, and this will show you how big of a nerd I am, there's also a sneaky reason why I like Trip to the Moon. Because the only reason I actually know about Le Voyage dans la Lune is that it was the inspiration behind the Smashing Pumpkins video Tonight Tonight. So if you've ever seen the Smashing Pumpkins video for Tonight Tonight, that whole thing is an homage to La Voyage dans la Lune. And that's how I found out about it. And then I watched it and I was like, oh, this is amazing. And so you learn a little more and you're like, oh, it's really amazing. So there we go. Pretty interesting stuff. So go watch the video for Tonight Tonight if you haven't seen it. One of the best music videos that has ever been made in rock music. One video of the year, the MTV Music Awards. And then go watch A Trip to the Moon. I think it's on Netflix, and they recently colorized it, and I watched the colorized version, and it's good, but I don't know. I'm still kind of a weirdo purist there. And yeah. All right, so there's that. Other questions? Any other ideas or concepts or thingamabobbers? Anything anybody else want to ask? Otherwise, we might be going to do a raid. Might be doing a raid. The French wanted to go to the moon because they thought it was made out of cheese. I guess. I mean, I do like cheese. I do quite like cheese. Cheese. Yeah. Standard question book. All right. Here we go. This is the standard question book and home study outlines. This book was printed in 1917 as a portion of a home study history course. I don't have the study book. All I have is the book of questions that goes along with it. So, what we do here. So basically, if you wanted to take a college history class and you couldn't go to college, you wrote the college. They sent you a whole big bundle of stuff, including a textbook. And this book was the study guide. So when you got through with a chapter, you looked in here and you had to answer all the questions. But all I have is the questions. I don't have the book. So what do? We look in the book and we find ourselves a page. Let's say that page right here. And then I just sort of move my finger down the list. Let's say right here, this question. And then I read that question. And if I know it, I answer it. And if I don't know it, we go look it up. Oh, this is actually a great one. This is a really good one. Is the Song of Roland earlier or later than the Troubadours? And what is its theme? So, the Song of Roland, for those of you that do not know, is an early epic poem that came out in medieval France, and it's about a larger explanation of it is this particular unproven knight, or perhaps even squire might be the particular word for it, has to go on this journey, and it's sort of this journey of discovery and fate. And if you know anything about Stephen King's Dark Tower series, Stephen King's Dark Tower is actually originally based on the Song of Roland. Now, there is a later poem. Let me go fetch the link for it. It's called Childe Roland to a Dark Tower Came. Childe Roland to a Dark Tower Came. This is a poem by Robert Browning. Let me see if I can actually find it. Where is the actual thing here? Yeah. So this is written much later, but this is sort of a whole summary of it. Did I not copy that? Copy. Paste. There we go. Bonus points if you can actually sing it. I cannot sing it. So there's Childe Roland to the Dark Tower Came. Let me actually see if I can find the original Song of Roland. Song of Roland. That's a download. I don't want that. Here we go. There we go. It was colorized frame by frame in the 1900s. Holy crap, Martest, I did not know that. I wonder if the version that's colorized today is actually the ones that they made in the past, or if they have gone back and like fixed that. I'm gonna have to look that up. Now I'm pondering things. But anyway, so the question here is, what is the theme of Song of Roland? Yes, it was restored. Okay, well, there we go. Oh, Oz, I saw you pop in. I'm sorry I didn't say hello. Hey, what's up? Good to see you, Oz. You don't have to say anything. You can always just hang out and chat and be involved in whatever you want to. Just to let you know, we're sort of done with the history-ish kind of part. Usually that goes for like an hour, hour and a half, maybe hour 45. And then we kind of just chat and goof off. And there's a lot of little point redemption things that we usually end up doing that kind of just hang around and goof off here at the end of the stream. But welcome in. I hope you're having a good one. Feel free to participate at whatever level you feel comfortable. Or just, hang out, hit the lurk, do your thing. It was badly damaged. Huh. I did not know that. Anyway, the theme of Childe of Roland. It's a heroic poem, and basically it is about striving to obtain goals, and then what happens when you get them and they're not what you thought they were. So that's kind of the larger issue here of Song of Roland. And it has a lot to do with kings and emperors and arguments and, people that are supposed to be loyal, backstabbing each other, and people that are supposed to be really good being really bad, and people that are supposed to be hated by society turning out to be good people and wronged. This actually does overlap a little bit with the stuff that we're talking about, because this was written in the late 1700s by Frankish people. All right, so the Song of Roland was one of the original sort of Frankish ballads that came out. And I know that we're talking about the 500s now, but the same family that was ruling, like the family of Clovis, who goes on to, by the way, be called, they're the Merovingian dynasty. That dynasty is still in control all the way up until the 700s. So this is something that is even connected through time. So this is actually a really interesting and timely question. So I love the question book. I really do love this question book. And I'm always happy when it gets redeemed, because you never really know what we're going to get. You never really know. So, standard question book. Good times. Watch what you wish for, pretty much, right? All right, anybody else got anything? We've got some good stuff going on here. Or we might go hit the raid. I don't know. What you think? Life is like the standard question book. You never know what it's going to ask or if you'll know the answer. That's a fair assessment. All right. How about this? I think it actually is time to go raid. So let's go do a raid. And I already know who we're going to raid, because I've got a buddy that doesn't stream as often as he would like to. And when he does stream, I always like to put some eyeballs in his direction, because he's a really cool dude. And is a really great artist and just a chill person to hang around, and is always very generous with helping people in his time when he does get to stream. So we're going to go... a question. Okay. By the way, Shane, on a side note, your alert movie is going to be on TCM on Saturday at 4:30. Okay, so I don't actually have... I don't have any cable. Who made the little animated Shane in the bottom right? The little adventure Shane. That was a streamer named Color by Emmy. I'll give her a shout out here. Emmy did the little guy down there, helped me design my sort of retrofitted layout. Vipers, I don't know if you ever saw the way that I had the layout done at very early versions of the stream, but it was not nearly as dynamic and interesting looking here as it is now. And also did my intro screen, so I can switch over to my intro screen really quick to let you look at that, but I'm pretty sure you know what it looks like. But for those interested, Color by Emmy did all of this stuff, and the intro screen. And she does do stuff on commission. She's a full-time artist, so if you're interested in getting stuff like that made, she is really good at animations. She also does graphic design. She does t-shirt design. She does text design, logos, all sorts of stuff. So give Emmy a follow, and you can shoot her a whisper on Twitch here. My interactions with her on a professional level were incredibly professional. She gives really good feedback, responds very quickly if you have suggestions, is very good at sort of visualizing things that would make things more visually dynamic, and does really fast and very good work for a very reasonable price. I cannot say enough nice things about Emmy. If you need somebody to do any work, please do go give her a follow and reach out to her. I give 2 thumbs way up. And when I get another stream check, I am already talking to her about maybe doing some animated emotes for me, including what might be a chunky horse galloping emote. So that might be coming soon. Spartacus. Oh, I see. I've seen Spartacus a bajillion times. But I don't actually have cable to watch anything. I cut cable out a couple of years ago. Um, Now I just sort of watch whatever I want to, but I won't say how. Arr. But anyway, um, let's go do a raid. So we're going to go raid. Vipers, do you know who we're raiding? Who are we going to raid? You might know who we're going to go raid. But we are going to go and raid my friend Jay Axer. Not CGA, no, Jay Axer. Jay is an art director at Blizzard and works on a little game called Hearthstone. I don't know if you are familiar with Hearthstone, but Jay is the lead art director for the Hearthstone game. And he's a really cool guy and streams occasionally, but we're about to go see Jay because he's on, and I rarely ever get to raid him or see him, so we're going to go spend some time there. Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out. As always, I might stream this weekend and work on some Gundam stuff. We're still building this dude, the old Zeong. The next time I will definitely be streaming is Tuesday next week. We'll be doing a viewer request on the origin of Germanic peoples. So where did the Germans come from in the first place? And that's going to be a really interesting stream for Sci-Fi, who I hope is feeling better by then. Otherwise, thank you all so very much for hanging out. It always does make my day better. You're great people. I love you. And I'll see you next time. So take it easy.